thank you for being willing to talk to me and be featured as a business for On Record. So tell us, Kristi, about Art of the Space, how you got started, just a little bit of the background about your organizing business.
Sure. Yeah. So I started Art of the Space about 4 years ago. When I was looking for a new chapter in my career. I was a public relations professional for 30 years, director of PR for a big statewide nonprofit, juggling, triaging, doing crisis management. But I always had a creative side, and I loved everything home. I loved decorating and helping people organize, friends, family members, myself. My mantra was, when your house is in order, so are you. And it continues to be my tagline today. And right before the pandemic, I saw the whole organizing craze was taking off. The life-changing magic with Marie Kondo's show, the home edit, and I thought, there's something here. And then all of a sudden people were stuck in their homes with their kids home from college and living with them. Everyone was getting buried in their spaces, needing to create new workspaces. And all this stuff had come into their homes. People were taking advantage of the real estate market and saying, I'm going to sell my house now. I thought, there is something here. So I started Art of the Space, and I started working with people, and I love helping people.
We're just talking, you do many things, not just one lane. You get into a bunch of different lanes, which I definitely want to hear more about. But overall, what would you say is your organizing philosophy?
When your house is in order, so are you. And we all have clutter that we see and don't see that is an actual drain on our brain. So if you can get an organized, simplified way of living in your home where everything has its place, and you create systems and habits to put things where they belong, and use buckets or containers or whatever it is, that it really will give you peace of mind and save you time. You won't be looking for things. You won't be wondering where things are. And you won't have all that guilt about all those piles and those stashes that are just sitting there waiting for you.
One of the things that I'm wondering about is when you're working with a client, let's say, that's preparing to move, and they've been in a house for, let's say, 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. And I have this philosophy that people aren't moving not because of necessarily prices or high interest rates, but because of the stuff. They don't know where to begin.
It's their memories.
Yes.
It's their heirlooms that have come in from parents that perhaps have passed, and they've been left with boxes and furniture and china. It is an overwhelming process for so many people, and people don't know where to begin.
So when you're sitting with someone, do you start in the attic? Do you start in the basement? Do you start with books? Do you start with the things? Do you call it a estate sale company? Like, where do you actually literally begin?
I'll say it is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It is a very customized approach to the person. And I always sit down and I have a conversation, and I try to find out what the plans are, the goals are, what the challenges are, what the timeline is. Are you thinking about putting the house on the market in a couple of years? Are you putting it on in a few months? And the big strategy idea is to sit down and write down your goals, your objectives, your timeline, and what you're hoping to accomplish and what you might need help with. What can you do on your own? What might you need some reinforcements? We create a plan, and then generally what I recommend is we start in the spaces that you're living in that matter the most and are the ones that are going to be seen first by potential buyers. So we start thinking about decluttering to stage, because, you know, as realtor, you come in, you do the photos. You don't always have to take a photo of every single room in the house. You want to show storage, you want to show closets, but there are certain things that don't have to be photographed. So it's sort of the prioritizing of the spaces that matter the most. And then I'll say, you know, what's bugging you the most? Where do you think we should start? And so it's often the kitchen, it's often the attic, it's often the basement, the garage, you know, where you can't even fit a car maybe because there's so much accumulated stuff. And then we start to talk about where you'd like to go or where you know you're going. If you know you're maybe going to an assisted living facility and you have a 2-bedroom. Okay, what furniture do you want to take? What furniture matches the decor the new place? What, you know, might you be willing to let go of? And then we often will do a spreadsheet, or we'll just take really good notes and we'll tag things and we'll send pictures to the kids. Hey, do you want that couch? I'm not going to be able to take that couch. And so we'll sort of triage everything in the house. And
I like that word, triage.
Triage. You know, it's like a nurse in the emergency room. And we try to really come up with goals too for what to do with the things that you don't need or want anymore.
I was going to ask that. You know, once you've done that, you know, the family members have taken what they or you've decided what's going to come with. Then what are your favorite places? Because they're all different. You know, there's like everything from St. Vincent de Paul donation center, or like a restored type of place. 1-800-JUNK, the transfer station.
The opportunities are endless for donations and reusing and recycling, all of that. To buy nothing, there's Facebook Marketplace.
But that's like a full-time job. Yeah, but I think that would be a good side hustle for somebody to manage.
I know someone who does that.
Oh, okay.
So as a professional organizer, manager, I have so many resources, and I really do customize my recommendation to the client. So some people will say, let's just get rid of it all. I would love for it to be donated. And in a case like that, there's this wonderful clean out service that I use that is called Clean Out Your House. And they will donate things to, it's in Acton. And they donate things to them. And they will also recycle things that need to be recycled. They'll wipe your computers. They will not try to fill up the landfill. They have a consignment store. So that's a really nice one size fits all company. But that's expensive. Because, when you're getting rid of things, you're actually paying a mover. So it's a type of move. It's a mini move. So that doesn't work for everyone. Some people want to do more of it on their own. Their husband has a truck. So they go to the DPW or, the transfer station. And they all have the swap shops. And there's a great company, More Than Words, that takes clothing and books and household items. And they often have bins at these places. And so I think it's really important when you're moving and downsizing to think about what you are rehoming and where you want to do that. And some people say, I really want to sell some of my antiques that the kids don't want and that I can't use in my new house. Am I going to get some money for it? And I'll say, well, I have a lot of experience with that, and I'm really sad to tell you that some of that colonial furniture of yours isn't going to bring much in, but I do work with an estate sale company that does sell a lot of it. And, they take a percentage. You might have a little extra money that could maybe offset your moving costs. And then there are the high value items, which I'll bring in an appraiser and we'll find out that, that antique chandelier, there's value there. And so we will often really customize what it is that the client wants to do with the things they don't want or can't use anymore. And so when I come in to help people with this process, I honestly feel like I'm a home therapist because there are so many sad and emotional things around letting go of things that you bought in Europe when you were traveling with your family or things that your parents left you. And it's really hard for people to let go. And I have all kinds of strategies that help with that as well.
What's your feeling about storage facilities?
Out of sight is often out of mind, but that's still clutter that's draining you because there's guilt associated with that. You're spending money. You know you have to do it, but you don't have the energy. You want your weekend. You don't want to go do that. 1 in 10 people have a storage unit.
That aren't even in the process of moving or transitioning into a different life chapter. They just have one.
And some people won't tell their family they have them. And the average, not here.
It's like Breaking Bad.
Yes, it's like Breaking Bad. The average cost is $85 a month countrywide, but here it's like $200. Here in our market, they're very expensive. So, one of my clients has 2 storage units right now, and it's $600 a month. And that is a lot of money. So I really try to get my clients to let go of those storage units and the items in them. And there's this one charity that I love called New Life Furniture Bank. And you do have to pay their people to pick up at your home or storage unit, but they are helping people getting back on their feet and moving into homes again, outfit their homes. So they'll come pick up your mattresses and your beds and your furniture. It all has to be in good condition, but it's a really nice way to release some of that storage unit stuff and feel good about it.
Kristi, what is the most extreme organizing project that you've done?
That's a tough question because there are so many and they're so different. But one that is sort of on my mind right now because we just finished is a client who had lived in her lovely large home with 4 kids for 30 plus years, and everyone is now off and working and there's this empty nesting, but they're not ready to leave quite yet. Probably gonna maybe 3 to 5 years downsize. But this client was having a milestone birthday and thought, what a great opportunity to actually go through the entire house and declutter and let go and release the years of accumulated things, from the kids' sports equipment to their art, to all the stuff that came home from college, to boxes and boxes of photos before we went digital. And it was a total house cleanse. And the transformation has been incredible because there's been so many items that have been released and donated, and some things that have been sold, and then some creative things that have happened with the boxes and boxes of photos, which will be digitized and turned into photo album, and t-shirts and baby clothes and things that are being turned into quilts. And so it's been transformative for the client client in terms of this feeling of letting go and releasing and being energized by the process and knowing what to do with the things that are being held on to. And now having a space that can be theirs in a new way when the kids come to visit and guests come to visit, and being ready to move when the time comes.
But it's interesting that wasn't like, we're going to move in 6 months. It was like they knew maybe 3 years down the road, but to do that process.
And you know, there's a terrible term in Sweden called death cleaning.
Oh, yeah.
I hate it. There's a cartoon in the New Yorker that I love, and it's this little man on a walker with his son, and the garage is open and it's packed and everything's falling out. And he says, look, son, some days this will all be yours. So we do need to have a paradigm shift, I think, in our society where people start to think in advance about, it's not really fair to leave all this stuff to the kids. And it's not fair to myself to leave all this stuff to the last minute when it's time to put the house on the market and stage it. And so it does really make sense to start the process early if you can. And it feels so good, right?
Tell me a little bit about what your clients have said in terms of how their lives have changed. Sort of how their lives are different.
I would say the biggest comment that I get is, I'm so relieved. I feel so relieved. I feel so much better. I feel so free. I feel less guilt around all these things I was holding on to for sentimental reasons, or trying to get to those projects I couldn't get to that I was beating myself up for not getting to. The feeling of relief and letting go of unwanted and unused things or clutter that's built up, it creates a new energy. I'd say that's the common thread.
So we've talked a lot about clients that are in the process or thinking or on the cusp of maybe a move, but just for regular, like people living. So my sister, years ago, when she moved in, bought her first home and moved in, she's a young woman, she was like, I don't know where anything goes. I feel like there's a myth that all women have this skill.
The terrible myth.
Exactly. Like we all are just equipped. And I missed that day in ladies' school because I do not know where anything goes.
My mom role models the tidying up sort of philosophy.
Okay, mine too.
You know, clean up the spaces before you go to bed sort of thing.
Oh, I see.
That sort of more type A sort of way of being, like having your houses in order, so are you, my mantra. No, not everyone works that way. I feel so badly actually about this organization movement because the home edit and like Martha Stewart
More
did.
shame.
More shame.
More shame.
So yes, these women have empowered women, and many women have really learned to better manage their homes and lives because of it, but they've also intimidated a lot of women, as has, you know, Instagram and Facebook. I really like to say to people, what do you need in your home to function better? What do you need to organize better? Where are your holes? What are you not doing because you're not good at it, you don't have time, you don't have energy, or you're really stuck? And I try to really customize for the person. So what you're saying is you don't really know where things go because you're a successful realtor who is spending a lot of time out in the field with clients. You come home, that's just not your forte.
But I have friends that when they have free time, they love that. Like it's therapeutic.
And it's a hobby.
It's the
all that.
last thing I want to do.
Because that's just not who you are. So I always
But
say,
I don't
don't beat yourself up to people. We can't be good at everything. We just can't. And so let's prioritize where we want to spend our time and let's live our best life. And so it does help though for everything to have its place. So if you don't know where things go, have someone like me, a friend who's good at organizing, one of your kids who's good at it, to come in and work with you and say, let's think this through. Okay, it's the kitchen. Let's have the everything drawer be more about office related things. And let's put the tools in the garage in the tool shed. Let's look at the, you know, the spatulas and all the tools we use in the kitchen and say, do we need all of these things? And then let's have designated drawer dividers where we put those things that are similar together. And just finding spaces, whether that's bins or zones, closets, or similar items can be grouped together. And having a strategy around that. You know, if you're looking at your closet and you think all jumbled together, how can this function better for me?
Actually, I want to ask you about that because the Container Store, I think they filed for bankruptcy last year.
They're getting it back together again.
So maybe somebody's buying them. But I thought that was kind of, because I go in there and I'm paralyzed. And I also want to know, when is the time to actually bring something in, like buy another thing and introduce another thing into your space that's actually going to be useful. So like, for instance, do you need this?
Your egg thing.
I never used it.
You know what? It It depends on who you are. There are these Instagram organizers
Well,
where
exactly.
everything is the perfect clear lucite thing in the fridge, and they're the people that say, I don't want to look at the ugly egg carton, right?
Right, but like,
So,
this is the last thing I bought it with, it's aspirational.
it's your aspirational
It's aspirational,
thing.
but
Yeah.
like, I have no time.
So if you're not going to use it, what you could do is instead you could make little smoothie bites, and you could fill that and stick it in the freezer and pull those out and
Right.
put it in your
It's like our craft supply for like tiny things.
craft
If I was
supply,
going to do
jewelry,
making.
earrings. No,
So things like that. But I think the Container Store was very seductive.
They are seductive.
And you kind of get in there.
It's all seductive.
But
all
then, but there you are, and you're like
baskets and beautiful
right.
lucite container. I just say, like, when I go in and I work with a client, I say, what is your organization preference? Are you someone who needs baskets and bins and containers? And they'll say, yes, oh my God, I need that. Other people will say, no, I don't like all that. And I don't want to buy all that. And I'll say, well, let's use what you have, and maybe we can get creative with some risers in the pantry so that you can see all of your cans. Because if you just put them all in there, they're blocking each other. So maybe spend a little bit of money to use things that will help you see what you have. But you don't have to put everything into compartments. You can put things into sections, zones. So it's a lovely thing if you want to contain everything that way, and it does look pretty. If that makes you happy, that makes you feel good,
you're okay.
then it's great. But you don't need it. So I save like mason jars and things and take the labels off. I use those to put nuts in. They're not all perfect and they don't all match, but it's sustainable. You're not using plastic that's leaching and it's clear and you can see through it. You don't need a label because you can see what it is. So there's so many ways to organize and do it in the right way for you. I do think it is important to ask yourself questions before you buy things. To have a mindfulness around your organization and to say, if I go buy all these containers, am I going to take the time to do it? Do I really need it in the first place? And just spend time in your home living with mindfulness around how you're using your barware. Do you ever go to those tall stemmed glasses? No. Are you entertaining a lot? No. Okay, so maybe they move to a different place so that you have more room to access the things you're using.
Funny, when you're a realtor, you have the privilege of being in so many homes, and you do see people, sometimes become intimidated, like, oh my gosh, I gotta get my act together back at my own house. But you also can feel inspired too, because someone will come up with
a great idea. There's so many creative ways to do it.
Yes. Do you have a favorite book about home organization that you would recommend?
Well, I'll tell you the favorite book that inspired me when I started part of the space. And it was Marie Kondo's Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. The reason I love that book still today is because it's really about mindfulness around the things you own and thinking about the why. Why do I have this? What does it mean in my life? Am I using it? Will I use it again? Does that shirt that's been in the closet for 4 years that I haven't worn still make me happy? Do I want to look at it in my closet but not wear it? Okay, fine, leave it. Do I feel good when I put it on but I just want to wear it selectively? Okay, keep it. Am I looking at it and it's making me feel bad because it doesn't fit? Maybe I haven't dropped that 5 pounds that I need for it to look good? Release it. And so it's a great book because it really teaches you to think about what you have and why you have it and how you feel. And as she says, is it serving you? She says, does it spark joy? Yeah, but your pantry items aren't going to spark joy, so that doesn't work. So that's my favorite book. But then the Home Edit also came out with a book a few years ago that I love because for me it's aspirational. I have a lot of clients that do like things looking all beautiful and rainbowed. We use the rainbow method a lot in closets where we'll put like-minded colors together. And it's great. I need a white blouse. I'm going to go to the white section instead of looking all over the place for the white blouse. So if you like the aesthetic part of organizing, that's a great book. So there are many out there.
It's interesting. I like how you said, Kristi, how like these Netflix specials or these like sort of organizing stars on Instagram and all of that. They're great and they can teach us, but we shouldn't follow everything that they're saying necessarily if it brings more pressure. It's what's right for some homeowners.
There's a lot of habits. There's a quote that says, clutter is just procrastination. If you think about it, it is.
It really is.
Piles of papers. It's just the not getting to. I have thoughts on that as well with digital.
Your Art of the Space is about home organization and helping clients with that. It's helping clients who are maybe preparing or thinking about a move.
Yes.
But you do other things. Talk about
Yes.
the other things that you do, but also things that you're working towards or different parts of your business.
Yeah, I have like 4 different buckets of things, and it's really all about trying to help people live in their spaces that they're living in better.
Okay.
And think about how they're going to be living in the new spaces they might be going to, or the spaces they're refreshing, how to make them function better. It's
Right.
about living and functionality and having time to enjoy your life the way you want to spend your time. And so I help people downsize and move and all the logistics around that. I help people stage. I don't bring furniture in. I have people that can, but I help people make the house look ready for photos and walkthroughs. And with that sometimes requires styling. We might go buy some new pillows. We might get a new rug. We might get some, decor that's updated, some plants, some things that add some warmth. I help people decorate. So often when they move, they want to get, new curtains or rugs or wallpaper or paint colors. And I help people, I consult on that. And I also help people do that. And then there's a big piece that I do, which is home life and estate management. So I help people put together house manuals and documents and binders or digital files of all of the things that they need to help them run their home. And sometimes that's helpful. Warranties, instructions, schedules of when the landscape company comes to do the spring cleanup, the fall put to bed, the cleaning the irrigation system, servicing the generator. And that's a really helpful tool because when you do go to sell a house, actually, that's something that you can offer a potential new homeowner where they know all the appliances they're getting and all of the shrubs, and they have access to everything that the house comes with, and they know what it is and what to do with it when. And that can be really helpful. We spend a lot of time looking for things that we can't find in our life.
Like to have everything at your fingertips.
To have everything at your fingertips like that is really helpful. I call it home life and estate management because, there's a lot that goes into the schedules around running your house and the logistics around running your home. A lot of people have several homes. And so sometimes you need homes to be watched while you're away or managed when you're away, or maybe there's a water leak. You need to do some repair work. And so I help people create systems around all of that. And I often come in, jump in, and then deal with things.
I know that you offer gift certificates, which is that's actually a really neat idea because let's say for your parents, right? Like spending a couple of hours with you about like just getting the ball rolling and or maybe a new homeowner who is really interested in having that kind of binder created or moving into a new space, and before the movers come, have a plan.
It's a great gift. A lot of people buy gift cards from me. Gift cards for consultation, just to help people figure out sort of the early stages of a possible move. Gift cards for just dealing with a basement. Mom is drowning with all her stuff in the basement and the heirlooms and the china and the baskets. So it's a session, and sometimes that organizing session will really motivate someone and create some momentum.
Okay, so I think we've gotten through a lot of our questions, but a couple like sort of rapid fire. I think these are some of the bullies of like home ownership or never know what to do with them is like the KitchenAid mixer. Do you think that should be on the counter and put away?
Again, it really depends on the individual, because, for some people, it's sort of an artistic statement of cooking. And they're really good looking because they come in fun colors. Some people don't want to see anything on their counters. So they have those hidden cabinets that the appliances go in. Or they have a pull-out drawer underneath. But a couple of things on the counter that say something about you. Maybe you're a really big baker. You're a really big cook. Yeah, those like the air fryers, pressure cookers, they're bullies, right? They take up a lot of space. We all have way too many of these things. And it's crazy because how many people are really using their ovens anymore? No, there's like an individual appliance that you can buy for pretty short money for that one ingredient. Exactly. But they're good at it. There's nowhere to put it unless... I would say, as an organizer, I would say before you buy a new appliance, think about what you're cooking, how you're cooking, how often you're cooking, what would make cooking easier. Are you making small batches? Do you want to quickly warm something up and roast something and not use the energy of your oven and heat up the kitchen and wait for 20 minutes for it to get hot? In a case like that, an air fryer is a great tool, and they're not always attractive unless you're buying those fancy ones. So, can you put it underneath in a pull-out drawer? Label makers. Yes. Crazy makers or essential? Oh, that's really cute. That's a great question. I really like that. Because it's aspirational. It's aspirational. Like I got one, and so I figured out how to use it because I wanted to. I had been in a home. I'll never forget this home
where you opened up the refrigerator like a big, Sub-Zero, and the homeowner had labels for like where the mustard goes, where the Grey Poupon is here. They had a label.
So that everything had its place and got put back in its place.
Exactly. So your soy sauce was not going to be over, it was always going to be, and it just like, it
That
jolted me.
That is
like I have to
organization on steroids.
That is a little organization, but again, that house sold in a hot second because people are like, they think they're going to live that way, and of course they're really.
Or they think, oh, someone created a system for me.
Right.
I could just plug right into that.
Exactly.
And I think that's what a lot of the home edit and sort of organizer influencers are doing. They're helping people create systems that will make their life easier, or that they can aspire to. But then for some, they're intimidating. So I made the labels, but then the label was too wide. It was too fat for the edge of the shelf. So now they're just like curled. And oh, that's really funny.
So do you know what I mean? Like you try these things.
There is a label out there for you that will fit on that
exactly.
shelf. But back to the label question, I again think this is very individual, but what I would say is that labels are really effective when you don't want to see what's in a box. Because if you can see through a lucite container, so a lot, like I have one client, she has all these beautiful linen boxes in her closets where she's contained everything from packing tape to file folders, to gifts that she wants to give at Christmas that she's saving. And they all have a lovely label. And it's just very soothing to look in there. But there are people that want to see what's in the box. And so if you can see what's in the box, you may not need that label. But if you have, let's say, housekeepers that are helping you and they're changing the beds, it's so great to have sectioned labels in the linen closet or in a drawer, for example, where you can have the queen sheets, the king sheets, the single. And that's really helpful when you have people helping you. So there's so many reasons to use labels. Someone said to me once, this has stayed with me, is that it's okay, let's say in your closet, or it could be like where you keep your office supplies, or your, like it doesn't have a category. And that's helped me a lot. Like to just have a non-category. And an everything drawer is not. We all have them. Okay. Yeah. Everyone has an everything drawer. Okay. And it's really nice to have a catch-all drawer. But one thing I like to say to people is those also get cluttered and full, and then you don't know what's in there. So, I like to just say, do an everything drawer cleanse every once in a while while the pasta water is boiling. You're waiting for the pasta to boil. And take some pockets of time that you have and go over there and just thin it out a bit. Put like things together, the sticky notes, the pens, the paper clips, the scissors, and say, do I need all of these? And thin them out, And then I also like to suggest that if you have a mudroom or a foyer or places in your house where you can have a couple of baskets or bags or buckets to sift and sort as you go through your home. Let's just say you're walking through and there's just stuff everywhere and you think, okay, I can put these books that belong in the kids' rooms in the basket here for later. I can put all the bills that just came that I don't want to look at in this basket to go up to the office. I can put a couple things that I'm thinking of donating but I'm not ready to drop off yet or call, Vietnam vets to pick up in this basket. So it's sort of everything has its place, and then there can be a temporary holding pattern place. So you're not trying to crisscross the house and when you're in the middle of your life or your work or you're taking care of your family. Maximize your time where you are and have some places where you can stash stuff. Getting back to water bottles being a bully, Tupperware. Tupperware and photos. Those are the only, Tupperware and photos. And obviously so many of our photos, they're all digitized, but people still have they do. Bins and bins, or they do. There are some really great tools out there. There's a really wonderful company in Newton called EverPresent. And they will digitize all of your VCR tapes and old film tapes and slides even and negatives and printed photos. They'll digitize them for you. And they'll give you a link. They can give you a little drive, but you can also store it in the cloud. It's expensive though. So if you don't want to do that, then there are a bunch of apps, and there's one that I've recently used that I love because I did a 25th birthday photo album for my daughter, and it's called Photo My. You can take pictures of your pictures and then it will clean them up and send them to save, and then you can go through it later and make sure you like them all, and then you can upload them to Shutterfly or whatever you want to use to create a photo book. So it's a great thing, and you can actually take a picture of 4 or 5 photos all together and it will individually snapshot each, edit, and save. And then with the Tupperware, I've been trying to get people to move away from the plastic because, you know, even though they're BPA free, I think there's still some leaching going on. And, you know, you can buy these really nice glass containers, and some of them have the nice bamboo top, others have rubber tops, and you know, they're clear and you can see through them, unlike a lot of the plastic stuff. And it's a really nice way to upgrade your storage and be sustainable too. I think I've been trying to get away from plastics and getting people to get away from the plastics and be more sustainable.
And my final question is, when you get home after like a really long day, or let's just say you have a couple days off, is your house perfectly organized?
As an organizer.
Yeah,
you know how they say the cobbler's kids don't have shoes.
Exactly.
The decorator's house isn't decorated.
You know,
I downsized not long ago.
Okay.
And so I'm right
a
now
big purge
fairly organized because I'm living in a smaller space. And my garage is now my storage unit because I'm holding on to a lot of my children's books and some clothes and some things that I want for when I'm a grandmother.
Yeah.
You know, but I've gotten rid of so much. So it is, but I still have my pile. So like my bugaboo is that I'm a paper person because I'm a visual person.
Okay.
And I'm trying to continue to transition from paper to digital.
Okay.
And I'm doing this for a lot of clients as well. And so I still have some files I need to go through. But that brings me to recommending, you know, some new systems for you or clients or anyone who is dealing with paper is you can take pictures. You can scan or take photos of a bill when it comes in and email it to yourself and create a file, a little folder in your email that's bills to pay. You can also call the electric company or email the heating company and say, I want to go digital and get rid, getting rid of paper, right? And then go through your files and say, what am I really accessing here? Do I really need this? Or could I take pictures and store it on Dropbox, in both on my computer and my phone, because you can access Dropbox from your phone. And so I'm also really trying to help people think about decluttering their digital and paper life by making use of digital filing and also getting rid of digital files you don't need anymore. So all those emails you get, it's intimidating. But sometimes if you're waiting at the doctor's office or you're, you know, watching a kid's sports game, you can spend a couple minutes unsubscribing and getting rid of these things that you know you don't really need in your inbox, or pulling them into some of these folders. Like I have a important now folder where I put things that I know I need to deal with, but I get them out of my inbox.
Okay.
But I'm a little type A around that stuff. That's not for everybody, but there are some techniques like that can help you.
Sue Perry, thank you so much for sitting with me, and so fascinating. And Art of the Space is just like, I love how, like you said, it's so personal. It's just client by client, but you're really there to like give people more time to enjoy their lives, enjoy their spaces,
and create energy and momentum around dealing with their space.
And you have such a nice way about it, you know, so that's a big part of it. Like you are very empathetic and like, you know,
thank you.
So that's a big part. So
you ask really good questions.
Well, I clearly have a lot of things in my own personal issues.